California Edition. I'm Brad Pomerance coming to you from our Sacramento Bureau, and we are joined by Doss Williams. He is a member of the California State Assembly. And so I want to speak with you about AB 32. As we know, AB 32, the Global Warming Act, came with great fanfare, signed in 2006. There were efforts to undo AB 32. Those failed spectacularly when there was that measure, I guess Prop 23, I think is what it was. But as we get closer to 2020, how are we doing with meeting the AB 32 targets?
Well, the state of California is doing great to get to 33% renewable energy by 2020, which is why that Mr. Rendon and myself,
Anthony Rendon, member of the Assembly,
have jointly authored a bill to ramp up the percentage that is required of renewable energy so that this state would get half of its energy by renewable sources by the year 2030.
You think we can do that? You think
Absolutely.
We're ready? Talk to us. Let's back up to the 2020 date, and then we'll go further.
Sure.
Educate us, because I don't know the answer.
So,
how are we getting so close? Why is it we are going to meet that target? What are we doing right, sir?
The contracts, for the most part, are already signed. The facilities are, for the most part, already built.
Right.
For 2020.
And what is it?
It's solar for the most part. It's wind. It's a little bit of geothermal. It should be more, frankly, and it's a little bit of and it's rooftop solar too, but that's a much smaller portion of the aggregate. And people, like we have for the last 30 years, Californians are better at saving energy than the rest of the country. And that's a big portion of it, because we think about renewables and we think about big solar arrays, but the cheapest way to have a larger percentage renewable energy is just to reduce the amount of energy demanded overall.
I see. So how do you, through your bill, AB 1094, hope to get the state to 50% in the next decade? What will be needed?
It will require the procurement of contracts for that percentage of energy.
From where does the money derive for that? Is this private resources? Is it public? Is it public-private?
It is both. And as in the previous renewable portfolio standard that went to a third, everybody will complain and will say it's going to cost a lot of money, and then magically it doesn't cost that much money.
So let's talk, but I do think it's, I mean, you're wise to bring up the complaints, because look, there have been complaints. As we know recently, the timing may have been good for the supporters of AB 32, but gasoline became subject to cap and trade, part of the AB 32 formula, and purportedly our gas prices were increased as a result. Gas prices were, as a side note, decreasing because of the world markets, so it's hard to tell. But, it does beg the question about at what expense do we move toward renewables? Is it cost? Look, it's always a balance.
Sure.
So is it cost efficient?
That on average, Californians pay less for their utility bills than just about any other state in the nation.
But more for gas.
We spend, we do spend a little more for gas, and that is for a variety of reasons. But I think, this bill is focused on our energy sector. It's very, very important that we focus on that, because ultimately we'd like to get to a place where people aren't buying much gas, and so that isn't coming out of their pocketbook that way. And we want to provide a way that people can also get energy in a way that meets their values. And frankly, the other reason why we need to do this is jobs. This requirement for renewable energy has created a lot of jobs. And number two, because we want energy that does not hurt people across the globe. We want to procure energy that doesn't increase the amount of superstorms, the amount of sea level rise, and the amount of human misery that's accompanied.
So let's talk about that. Look, California, no doubt, with almost 40 million people, a significant population in the world. We are 6th, 7th, 8th number economy in the world in terms of size, but there are 7 billion people in the world. And so while I think Californians can take pride, arguably, in the fact that we are making positive steps on the issue of climate change and global warming, 40 million out of 7 billion is but a speck. And so do we need to be heroes in this situation?
We absolutely need to be heroes because the rest of the world will look to our example. I'll give you one good example, which is plug-in appliances. I have a bill that will increase the efficiency of plug-in appliances. We consume more goods, we consume more toys like our iPhones, our computers, and it is very important for those to be made as efficiently as possible so that we're not draining more energy off the grid. Those requirements may only be in California, but these companies, many of them are based in California, many of their design are based here. They're not going to make one copy for us and one for the rest of the nation or the rest of the world. They're going to make one product. And so the efficiency standards here in California become standard the world over.
But at what point are we pushing so hard that we play right into the narrative, which is California is overregulated, California is not a place to do business? How do we balance that?
Well, these measures actually bring in more businesses because it's more in-state procurement as opposed to out-of-state procurement, right? When we use non-renewable energy, we're drawing energy from elsewhere, which is why we had the energy crisis over a decade ago.
Alleged energy crisis.
And we, by building the renewables, we're making middle-class jobs in our state. And so it is the right kind of example. It is not an increase in the regulatory environment. It is actually a good thing for California businesses. And we are now seeing the kind of results from a design and renewable-based economy with more middle-class jobs. The only flaw in it is we need to have it more evenly distributed across the state. It's a big portion of why job growth in Northern California, particularly in the Bay Area, is so stellar. What we do need to do a better job of is make sure that technology jobs and those renewable jobs are more evenly distributed throughout the state.
One unintended consequence, though, of weaning ourselves off gasoline, be it through our plug-in hybrid, or our plug-ins and our hybrids, is that we're not spending as much money on gasoline. Now, that's nice, but we know our roads and bridges get money through a gas tax.
Right.
And with the gasoline prices dropping and using less gasoline, we don't have enough money to repair our roads and bridges. It's such a problem, but it's a problem.
It's a problem that's nice to have.
Right.
Is that so people are paying less in gas tax than ever before per capita. That is a good thing for consumers. It does present us in government with an issue of going, well, how do we pay for those roads and bridges and transportation infrastructure? But the Speaker Atkins is working on a very important proposal to make sure that we make that investment in infrastructure, because I do think we don't want to be like the latter-day Roman Empire, looking at our roads and our aqueducts and go, gee, it was nice when we used to know how to repair those. Civilizations are founded on its infrastructure. We need to invest in our infrastructure.
But do you feel as if, I have no doubt the speaker is sincere, but is there enough attention kind of in the zeitgeist, if I can say? Because you hear a lot of inside the beltway, if I can use that term, that now is the time to focus on infrastructure, but I don't hear about it on the streets, at the coffee shops. I mean, it's critical from what I've learned.
I think that's ultimately a product of people in government being able to triage our transportation system. Because if our roads looked like other countries, then people would complain. But we've been able to hold it together. I'm just saying that we won't be able to hold it together forever.
That's what I've heard.
Without a new measure. And now is the time to work on it. Particularly, these are the two subjects that the governor highlighted the most in his speech in January, kicking off his new term in office. So we expect it's something that he is meaningfully willing to tackle and that we will help tackle.
And he is Doss Williams. I'm Brad Pomerance. It's California Edition.